Introduction. Today, for most of us women, we're usually on a spectrum umbrella of a subculture within a subculture. What do I mean? There has been a subdivision of certain national cultures that are encased in and within an integrated network of different behaviors, beliefs, and attitudes to a certain degree where everyday people choose to accept or reject certain ideas or theories that are put into practice today. Fact. As many as 50% of people with Asperger's syndrome may be undiagnosed. Aspergers/Autism Network, AANE. Mostly, all women, young and old, have similar challenges, habits, traits and outlooks as men, but with their own spin towards it. With Asperger's Syndrome, AS, however, this does present differently in young girls and women of all ages. Yet, this is perceived differently in their eyes, which therefore hasn't always been recognized until recently. I believe strongly that life's a journey, and each one of us is heading towards our destination. Each destination that we come to face in our life does sure as hell test us of the everyday situations that we do face. Yes, life isn't supposed to be made easy for us, as this does test our inner strength and being, as well as patience. The quote, "Life is a journey, not a destination," was said by Ralph Waldo Emerson. I feel in all fairness, that's how we ourselves measure successes and failures in our lives, or even how or what we make of ourselves in life. What we do in our lives is up to us and no one else, as no one can live our life, or tell us what to do. Yet, we do have a voice to be heard. We got choices to make every day, and we shouldn't have to follow everyone else or try to please everyone else around us. We only live once, therefore, we should be free to do what we want, when we want. Yet, we need to realize that there'll always be dire consequences that'll follow, based on the choices that we make. We all have our struggles, battles, and scars from everyday situations we face. Sometimes, we also tend to lose ourselves just by sacrificing other important values and morals that we live by. Sometimes, when we just arrive at a certain point in our lives, such as happiness and hope, we feel that we should just stop there. For some of us, when we reach a certain age in life, we realize that we've wasted most of our best years, worrying about how things should have or could have been, chasing something that didn't really exist or was just in front of us the entire time. Moreover, we should at least enjoy every part of life as it comes. We should at least enjoy life, embracing it by being happy and at peace within ourselves and others around us. We should always live in the present and not worry too much about a future that hasn't arrived yet. Life's also about learning the everyday lessons along the way. The trials and challenges we endure and face can determine everything about us and our future. Life is also about self-discovery, finding out who and what we really are as a person. I've got a strong belief that we all have a purpose and a reason in life, as this is to why we're here today, to make a better life today begin with us starting today. Most of the information out there's limited, and that give off the wrong impression of what Asperger's syndrome is really about, for those who have it. It's not the doom and gloom of it all, as it is simply not an illness as some specialists may claim. No, it's far from it. Asperger's syndrome is basically a different way of how we live our lives, compared to anyone else that's not like us. In fact, most of the time, most people would glorify the opportunity of this to an extent where they think it's cool and awesome and also superior to the neurotypical mind. I don't wish to say that this is cool and awesome, or making out that Aspies are superior to anyone else that make acquaintance with us in our journey. In my opinion, we're all equal, no matter who and what we are as an individual. The only thing is that we Aspies are the minority. This means that we need to get more work done to make more awareness of this, to gather and research more information to become more accessible to the public. That'll then raise more awareness and open to the public what Asperger's syndrome is really about. Most problems that we come across are that we have people who misjudge, misread us, miscommunicate, or even misunderstand what we are despite our meltdowns. I felt at the time of writing this book of my life story, that it'll be an eye-opener, as well as a sign of awareness, understanding, and knowledge. I wanted to address the differences between the males and females with Asperger's syndrome by looking inside my life and journey with Asperger's syndrome and giving others hope. However, I've come to realize this now more than ever, that Asperger's syndrome is now being diagnosed more in females than it has before, as this might be due to Asperger's syndrome being masked over with other diagnoses. Hence, emphasizing what I just mentioned before. We need to remember that we might not be diagnosed with autism as a child. I've got several aims in writing my book since I love health and science, as well as other subjects. My main desire here is to create a better understanding and awareness about me and others who have Asperger's syndrome. I would like to get rid of the stereotyping that people have about Asperger's syndrome, especially the mentality and attitude that all people with Asperger's syndrome are the same with similar traits, thinking and behaviors. No, we're far from being the same. We're all different and unique, therefore, we need to be accepted in everything that we do. People diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome are said to be diagnosed at different ages, genders, and stages in life. There are different stages we need to go through before we find out that we have Asperger's syndrome in adult life, and they are as follows. Awareness. Sometimes, when we've been told that we have Asperger's syndrome, or even after finding out that we have got Asperger's syndrome, it can sometimes be a bitter pill for us to swallow at first, and accept that we have this. Despite the information given to us, it doesn't hit home with most of us. At this point, some of us having Asperger's syndrome or been diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome will then come to the stage of experiencing some resistance and denial, thinking that it's not true, this can't be happening to me, and more thinking patterns like this. Knowing this is the irreversible understanding that we've got Asperger's syndrome, by then, reality clicks in for us. Validation. Having Asperger's syndrome explains so much for people with it, and explains so much in life that there's no rhyme or reason to why it happened, as well as having questions that mayn't be answered, or clear enough for us to understand. There'll always be series of moments, not just one moment, when we'll feel this way, as this will continue for many years to come. Relief. We can now feel more at ease with ourselves after being diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome and move forward. Even if we don't know for sure what our burden is until we're fully diagnosed, most people with Asperger's syndrome won't be carrying this burden around with them. Worry. We sometimes come to the stage in our lives where we'll have questions that again will be unanswered, such as what will my future be like with Asperger's syndrome? What it means, as well as how it can affect the potential I have or may have. Anger. Some of us who've been misdiagnosed at an early age will have so much blame and guilt of what had been shared with us by medical professionals that are laid upon us as well as others, and hopefully, we get to the last stage as quickly as we can. Acceptance/thriving. After being diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, we know that we all have special gifts and talents, and we should use these to our advantage, by showing others what we can do and our ability to strive for success and much more. My first aim for writing this book is to ensure that people with Asperger's syndrome are never alone, and that they can feel authorized, not to be stigmatized, to be self-esteemed and self-conscious of what they've got, and know that anything is possible. I'm willing to share my experiences with Asperger's syndrome and more with people by either being an advocate, as we do not need to do it alone. The second aim is to help people with Asperger's syndrome to defeat depression. Depression comes into play with Asperger's syndrome, however, we can defeat this, despite it being an invisible enemy in our lives that steals our happiness, wealth, and health. The reason why depression is our enemy is that it blinds us and sidetracks. The last and final aim of writing this book are to also help professionals in the medical profession to learn how to spot the signs of Asperger's syndrome early as possible, or preferably, before it starts, to hopefully find some alternative treatments and therapies for people with Asperger's syndrome. While writing this book on my daily encounters with Asperger's syndrome, I face situations every day which is similar to the neurotypicals as well as people with Asperger's syndrome. I'll openly reveal to you all what I cope with it every day, and to gain a better understanding about me as a person. After all, I'm still human too. So, I hope that we can learn from each other's life and experiences along the way, and be able to be helpers, or as some people may want to call themselves, lifesavers, for people, to make life easier for each and every of us.